Tonight is the first home football game of the season. Students and families are excited to celebrate senior night. Plus, different classes are making adjustments to comply with the new guidelines regarding COVID-19. Welcome back to WTHS News. I'm Mary Ellen Wolf. Many of us were not alive during the tragedy of 9/11 that so greatly affected our nation. However, we recognize the importance of learning about the events that occurred on this day. Nearly 3,000 people died during the terrorist attacks.
The plane just landed right there. What? It's a 737.
It what?
Like the World Trade Center.
Who are you talking to?
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
There are moments in history when you remember exactly where you were when something horrific happens. And for me, that day was September 11th, 2001.
Perhaps purposefully into, oh my goodness.
Oh, God.
There's another one. There's a second plane just crashed into the World Trade Center.
All the elevators are blocked out.
Pentagon just got hit. They got that piece down. Keep remaining sitting. You have the ball board.
You start concerned about what's going on, trying to keep them calm, but also not knowing that our nation was under attack.
So sorry, babe. I hope to be able to see your face again, baby. I love you. Bye.
Just as the news of evil was being whispered in President George W. Bush's ear on the morning of 9/11.
This means war. This means life will change forever.
I'm on the 83rd floor. I'm gonna die, aren't I? No. I'm gonna die. Liv, say your prayers. We're gonna think positive because you gotta help each other get off the floor. I'm now.
It was scary the entire day, but when it actually affected someone that I knew personally, it really became real. I had a student that I knew as a student and also as a church member, and he goes, I don't know what to do. My parents are in Washington, D.C. My mom was supposed to tour the Pentagon this morning. At that moment, I realized how many other people in our country were worried about that same thing.
Ready, talk to me. Ready, are you there? Ready? Ready?
Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror. The pictures of airplanes flying into buildings, fires burning, huge structures collapsing, have filled us with disbelief, terrible sadness, and a quiet, unyielding anger. These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat, but they have failed.
And it was amazing how people of different ethnicities and different religions came together to say, hey, we're all Americans despite our personal differences, and we're coming together to pray for our country and to pray to, find some kind of way to unify us and and figure out how to react to this.
And whatever needed to be done, if that meant giving money, if that meant giving blood, if that meant, serving, the community or folks in New York, because at the time we saw that there were all of these different entities that were working together to try and help.
Standing together, Republicans and Democrats. I remember thinking, if one good thing can come out of that, at least these people are united for a few minutes.
And I remember that night, instead of anchoring the 5 o'clock news, that I was live downtown covering the many North Mississippians who were coming together to pray for our nation.
Our country is strong. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. America was targeted for attack because we're the brightest beacon for freedom and opportunity in the world, and no one will keep that light from shining. Today, our nation saw evil, the very worst of human nature, and we responded with the best of America.
The whole occurrence really brought Americans together. I think we became, during that time, more patriotic. We all came together for the good for our country.
America and our friends and allies join with all those who want peace and security in the world, and we stand together to win the war against terrorism.
The way that Americans came together to pray for our nation and help those in need is inspiring to our generation. In other news, many classes have made changes in regards to COVID-19 in order to keep everyone safe and healthy during this global pandemic. Ari Giorgenti has more on this topic.
The deadly coronavirus officially hitting the U.S. Here's what we know. A Washington state resident fell ill after returning from Wuhan, China, where the outbreak began. Officials now say more than...
When students left school in March, it was just a normal spring break with many exciting trips planned.
Officially announced that this is a global pandemic.
Then suddenly the world fell apart as COVID began to outbreak in the U.S. It first started as just a one-week pushback to not coming back at all, canceling anything the school had for the next 2 months. But despite all of this, our teachers and students are bouncing back into the 2020-21 school year with new styles, plans, and precautions. Over in the Fine Arts Department, Mr. Moore has been working with the band to keep them in tune with the CDC guidelines.
We're so structured and we have routines for everything. And to have 165 kids try to learn a brand new routine for everything, from where we store equipment to how we enter and exit the room, to how we actually go about conducting a rehearsal. It's a lot to take in at once, but they've done a really good job of being flexible.
Junior drum major Caleb Kellum is still looking forward to performing at football games regardless of all the changes.
Well, we're not doing any competitions. We're just preparing a halftime show for football games. It's really interesting to see how much that changes things. For instance, we don't have anywhere near the amounts of after-school rehearsals as we've had in the past. The show is a lot easier, and of course, we're taking a lot of precautions.
From one fine art to another, Dr. Williams has had to look at composing madrigals through a whole new perspective. They have had to come up with a whole new setup. They have to face forward instead of the traditional arc, and they even wear specially designed singer's masks.
So the first thing we've done is we've moved to the band hall because it's a much larger room. And so we have had these singer's masks made. And so you saw the kids in the mask. It has sort of like a duck beak that sticks out and and it stays out. And so it gives the kids an opportunity to breathe better, to have more space, yet be enclosed in a mask. I was concerned that I wasn't going to really be able to hear them very well. And it's been fine.
Since these classes tend to be larger in numbers, they have had to go through countless maintenance to keep their groups going.
We're doing the classroom cleaning and the social distancing, masking up, coming up with new routines in place, different ways to store instruments and clean instruments and things like that.
These changes are happening all over campus, including CTE classes. Miss Miller teaches health science, which is a very critical field right now.
Every year the students have skills that they have to check off on in the lab. The past I've been able to take them all in there at one time, review a skill, and then let them practice and check off on it. But now I'm taking one or two at a time, making them stay apart. And so we're just going to have to do a lot of wearing gloves, hand washing, staying distant in the lab, and disinfecting after we use the mannequins and stuff.
In an already fast-paced world, the news industry has been taking on tremendous roles to keep up with all the madness. It's the same way here in our WTHS studio. Senior Paris Lehman says that even with all the changes, WTHS is still just as enjoyable.
With this being my third year in WTHS, everything has changed since how we've had to do it the past 2 years. We've had to stay 6 feet apart, socially distanced, have to do virtual interviews, and we have to make sure we can only be in the classroom for 10 minutes.
Regardless of what this year is going to end up like, students and teachers still have high hopes.
I'm looking forward to a good year. I've got great students this year. We're having some really good classes.
I'm looking forward to football games. I'm looking forward to conducting the band at halftime and the Star Spangled Banner, and just to have that experience as a drum major.
Ari Giorgenti, WTHS News.
Thanks, Ari. Not only has the coronavirus changed the way things are done in the classroom, it has also profoundly impacted sports. Paris has this week's sports edition.
Thanks, Mary Allen. I'm Paris Lehman, and here's this week's sports. This past Tuesday, our volleyball team picked up another win as they defeated Center Hill in 3 sets. With the 25% capacity allowed at all sporting events, this allows more fans to see our Lady Wave in action. Good luck to the volleyball team as they compete in VolleyFest tomorrow. Both our boys and girls cross country team competed in the South Pontotoc Invitational last Thursday. The boys team finished second overall behind Saltillo, with Taylor Brown taking first place in the 5K boys event. Also, our girls team placed 6th overall with Kaylee Wade as the top finisher for the race. Good luck to the cross country team as they compete at Saltillo September 19th. Be sure to come out and support your Golden Wave football team tonight as they take on West Point for senior night. But if you aren't able to come and support the team in person, you can watch the game on live stream. The game kicks off at 7. Also, if you're a student, be sure to cheer on the Wave in the student section tonight. Stay safe and go Wave.
Thanks, Paris. Students were taken by surprise on August 28th when they heard of Chadwick Boseman's passing due to a long battle with colon cancer. Shelby Spain talks to a couple of students about how they feel in regards to his death.
With the loss of actor Chadwick Boseman, students are mourning his loss really hard here at THS. Chadwick Boseman starred in the movie we all know as Black Panther, the first African-American superhero. He was our Black Panther who was lost too soon. Chadwick really made a mark on the students at THS. This will hit more personal than you would think. Madison and Paris tell me how this loss has affected them and made them even more humble.
I think Chadwick Boseman has made an impact on the world because now everyone can see that no matter what you're going through, you can always work hard.
Really taught me you shouldn't speak on people's lives or how they look because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. As we know, he did die of colon cancer, and he did look very sick in March when he posted a video.
My favorite movie is definitely Black Panther, you know, Wakanda Forever.
My favorite movie will be Wakanda Forever, but I also like the Jackie Robinson movie that he did and The Letter to the King on Netflix.
And I think he has affected me just by being a positive Black role model.
I feel like Chadwick has brought a sense of empowerment for Black people, and he was just a light to all little Black boys and girls. Chadwick Boseman was a light in this world we won't ever forget. Rest well, Chadwick. We will keep your name known in this little city of Tupelo, Mississippi. I'm Shelby Spain, WTHS News.
So many students, including myself, are deeply saddened by the loss of such an inspirational person. That's all we have for this week. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and thank you so much for watching this week's edition of WTHS.